Everyone in that boardroom laughed at him. His own family told him to get a real job. His friends said he was crazy. Today, that same man is worth over $500 million, and those people? They're still working 9 to 5. This is the story of Marcus Thompson, and what he did next will completely change how you see failure. Chicago, 2009. Marcus was 28 years old. Driving a beat-up Honda Civic through the freezing winter streets at 2 a.m., delivering pizzas to drunk college kids who barely tipped. He had a college degree that he never finished, $60,000 in student debt hanging over his head like a dark cloud, and a girlfriend who had just left him because, in her words, "I can't see a future with someone who has no direction." His parents didn't say much anymore. The disappointment in their eyes said everything. His father, a retired factory worker who had worked the same job for 35 years, would just shake his head whenever Marcus talked about his ideas. "Get a stable job, son. Stop dreaming and start living in the real world." But Marcus couldn't stop thinking. Every night, as he drove from restaurant to apartment, from downtown to the suburbs, he saw something nobody else seemed to notice. Small businesses everywhere were struggling. Not because they weren't good, not because people didn't want their services, but because nobody could find them. This was 2009, right before the smartphone revolution really took off. Businesses had ugly websites or no websites at all. Their Yelp pages were a mess. Their Google listings didn't exist. And Marcus, who had taught himself basic coding in his spare time between deliveries, saw an opportunity. One cold November night, after a particularly brutal 14-hour shift, Marcus went home to the tiny studio apartment he shared with 2 roommates and made a decision. He was going to build something. A platform that would help local businesses get found online. Simple, clean, effective. He spent the next 3 weeks building a basic prototype, barely sleeping, living off ramen noodles and cheap coffee. When he finally had something to show, he did what felt natural. He called a family meeting. Thanksgiving dinner, 2009. 23 relatives crammed into his aunt's house in the suburbs. After the meal, Marcus stood up, hands shaking, and presented his idea. He had printed out mock-ups, written a business plan, prepared a whole pitch. His Uncle Dave, a car salesman who considered himself the family's success story, listened for about 3 minutes before interrupting. "Marcus, come on, who's going to use that? You can't even finish college, and now you want to start a tech company in a recession?" The room went quiet. Then his cousin Brian laughed. Actually laughed out loud. "Dude, Google exists, Facebook exists. What are you gonna do that they can't?" Other cousins joined in with chuckles. His father just stared at his plate, and Marcus could see the disappointment turning into something worse. Embarrassment. His mother touched his arm gently and whispered, "Honey, maybe you should think about applying to the Postal Service. They have good benefits." Marcus left that dinner at 8 p.m. By 9 p.m., he was back in his studio apartment. By 10 p.m., he had made a decision that would change everything. He wasn't going to quit. In fact, he was going to double down. The next morning, he gave his landlord notice. He moved into his friend's basement, paying $200 a month instead of $650. He kept his delivery job but picked up 2 freelance coding gigs on the side, working from 6 a.m. to midnight every single day. No weekends, no breaks, no social life. His friends stopped calling after a while. Marcus became a ghost, one of them would later say. We invited him out, but he was always working on that website thing. For the next 12 months, Marcus lived like a monk. Basement, work, sleep, repeat. He taught himself advanced coding through YouTube videos and online courses. He cold called local businesses during his lunch breaks. He offered his service for free just to get testimonials. By December 2010, exactly 1 year after that disastrous Thanksgiving dinner, Marcus launched Local Connect. His first client was a small Italian restaurant in Little Italy that paid him $50 a month to manage their online presence. His second client was a plumbing company. His third was a bakery. By month 6, he had 3 clients total and was making $200 a month. His bank account had $47 in it. His mother called and said words that still echo in his head. "Marcus, it's not too late to quit. You're 29. You need health insurance. You need stability." But something strange was happening. That Italian restaurant? Their customers increased by 35% in 3 months. The owner, Mr. Benedetto, called Marcus personally. "I don't know what you did, but people are finding us. People are coming in saying they saw us online." Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years: validation. Not from his family, not from his friends, but from results. Real, measurable results. He doubled down again. He took every penny he had saved, about $2,000, and spent it on Facebook ads targeting local business owners. The ad was simple. "I increased a restaurant's customers by 35% in 90 days. Free trial, pay only if it works." Within 2 weeks, 47 businesses signed up for the free trial. Within 30 days, 31 of them became paying clients at $150 per month. Marcus did the math on a napkin at a coffee shop and almost cried. $4,650 a month. He was actually making a real income. By the end of 2011, he was making $12,000 a month with 80 clients. He hired his first employee, ironically his cousin Brian, the same one who had laughed at him at Thanksgiving. Brian needed a job and Marcus needed help. When Brian showed up for his first day, he looked at Marcus and said, "Man, I'm sorry about that Thanksgiving thing." Marcus just smiled. "Don't be. You taught me something important. Other people's doubt isn't my problem." The years 2012 through 2014 were a blur of growth. Marcus moved out of the basement and into a real office. A small one, just 600 square feet above a dry cleaner, but it was his. He hired 5 more people. Revenue hit $150,000 a year. In 2016, something happened that Marcus never expected. A Silicon Valley investor flew to Chicago specifically to meet him. Over lunch at a fancy steakhouse that Marcus couldn't have afforded to eat at 5 years earlier, the investor made an offer, $20 million for 50% of the company. Marcus looked at the term sheet, looked at the investor, and said something that shocked everyone at the table. "No." The investor blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" Marcus smiled. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm not selling half my company. I didn't survive the laughs, the rejection, and the ramen noodles just to give up control now." The investor leaned back. "You're making a mistake." "This is life-changing money," Marcus nodded. "You're right. But I'm not building this for a payout. I'm building this because I know what it's like to be invisible. I know what it's like to work your heart out and have nobody find you. These businesses trust me. I'm not going to let them down by selling to someone who just sees numbers on a spreadsheet." Marcus walked away from that $20 million. Instead, he took a $5 million loan from a different investor who believed in his vision and didn't want control. He used that money to expand nationwide. By 2019, Local Connect was operating in all 50 states, helping over 200,000 small businesses get found online. The company was valued at $200 million. By 2024, that number had climbed to $500 million. With over 500,000 businesses on the platform and 2,000 employees across the country. Last Thanksgiving, 2023, Marcus went back to his aunt's house for the annual dinner. Same house, same family, but everything had changed. His Uncle Dave, the car salesman, walked up to him with a drink in hand and said, "Marcus, I always knew you'd make it big. I could see it in you even back then." Marcus looked at him for a long moment, then smiled. Not a bitter smile, not a resentful smile, just a knowing smile. "No, you didn't, Dave, and that's okay. You couldn't see it because you never took the risk. You played it safe your whole life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't rewrite history to make yourself feel better about laughing at someone else's dream." The room went quiet again, just like it had 14 years earlier. But this time, it wasn't uncomfortable, It was respectful. Marcus continued, speaking to everyone now. I don't tell my story to brag. I don't talk about the money to show off. I tell this story because I learned something that changed my life, and I think it might help some of you, especially the younger people here. When people laugh at your dreams, they're not laughing at your potential. They're showing you their limitations. Uncle Dave couldn't see my success because he never dared to try something scary. My old friends couldn't see the vision because they stopped dreaming after college. Even my parents, who I love more than anything, couldn't see the future because they were raised to value security over possibility. And none of that was my problem to solve. Marcus paused, looking around the room at faces that had once mocked him and now looked at him with something between admiration and regret. The people who laugh at you aren't bad people. They're scared people. They're comfortable people. They're people who have accepted that life is something that happens to you, not something you create. And when you show up talking about creating something from nothing, building something that doesn't exist yet, betting on yourself when you have every reason not to, it scares them. Because if you succeed, it means they could have too. It means all those years they spent playing it safe were a choice, not a necessity. And that's a hard pill to swallow. He smiled at his cousin Brian, who was now his director of operations. Some people come around. Some people apologize and jump on board, and some people never do. But here's what I learned. You can't wait for permission to chase your dreams. You can't wait for validation from people who are too afraid to chase their own. You can't let someone else's fear become your ceiling. Those delivery shifts, driving through Chicago at 2 a.m. in the freezing cold, barely making rent, eating ramen for months, working 20-hour days in a basement, having $47 in my bank account at 29 years old, being told I was wasting my life, those were the best things that ever happened to me. Not because suffering is noble, but because that struggle taught me that I could survive rejection. I could survive doubt. I could survive failure. And once you know you can survive those things, you become unstoppable. Marcus raised his glass. So if there's anyone here, or anyone watching this, who has a dream that people are laughing at, who has an idea that everyone says won't work, who wants to try something, but is terrified of what people will think, let me tell you something. Try it anyway. Fail anyway. Get laughed at anyway. Because the alternative is spending your whole life wondering what could have been. And that, in my experience, is way more painful than any temporary failure. The room erupted in applause, but Marcus wasn't done. One more thing. To everyone who laughed at me, doubted me, or told me to get a real job, thank you. Seriously, you gave me fuel when I had none. You gave me motivation when I was ready to quit. Every doubt became a deadline. Every laugh became a goal. Every you can't became a watch me, so thank you. I couldn't have done it without you showing me exactly what I didn't want to become. Today, Marcus still remembers every street he drove as a delivery driver. He remembers every face that laughed. He remembers the exact look in his father's eyes that Thanksgiving night in 2009. But he also remembers the day his father called him in 2018, voice shaking, and said, "Son, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I was so focused on keeping you safe that I almost kept you small." Marcus remembers telling him, "Dad, you did what you thought was right with the information you had. I don't blame you. I thank you. Because you raised me to work hard, and that work ethic is what built this company." The truth is, Marcus's story isn't special because he made money. Lots of people make money. His story is special because he made a choice that most people are too terrified to make. He bet on himself when nobody else would. He kept going when every logical reason told him to stop. He turned mockery into motivation and doubt into determination. And now, he employs 2,000 people, helps over 500,000 small businesses thrive, and has created something that genuinely makes the world a little bit better. So the next time someone laughs at your dream, remember Marcus Thompson. Remember that kid delivering pizzas at 2 a.m. who everyone said was wasting his life. Remember that the biggest success stories don't start with everyone believing in you. They start with you believing in yourself, even when you're the only one. Especially when you're the only one, because those laughs, they're not stop signs. They're fuel. And if you're crazy enough, brave enough, and stubborn enough to keep going, those same people who laughed at you will be the ones asking, "How'd you do it?" And you'll smile, just like Marcus did, and say, "I just didn't quit." If this story inspired you, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now, because next week, I'm bringing you another story that will make you question everything you thought you knew about success, failure, and what it really takes to build something meaningful in this world. I'll see you then.